Well, welcome back everybody to the Formula Fun podcast then, and at long last then, Formula One is back. I mean, it's been 3 months, but it feels like a lifetime. So we are back with Formula Fun podcast episode number 7, the Australian Grand Prix, and of course, as per usual, Rage is alongside me to go through the weekend's racing. How are you doing today, my friend?
The 3 months I've aged so much in the time. I'm now old.
I almost forgot where the TV was.
I couldn't find this microphone thingy, but someone pointed me in the right direction. I was previously talking to the cat.
I almost watched an hour of Antiques Roadshow because I couldn't find the remote.
Then I found out it was Newsnight.
Said no one ever.
Whoa!
I mean, Formula One, Antiques Roadshow, and Newsnight are all at completely different times, so it doesn't really work on any level. And that's also something that no one from the UK will also get. So that's not from the UK, sorry.
No.
So I guess before we kick off, is there anything you do to fill the F1 need when we're in off season?
What to fill that F1, the missing piece of the puzzle?
The hole in your heart. Yes.
The thrusting in your loins.
Yeah, I was going to avoid that one, but you know, sure, barrel straight into it.
I don't know. I don't think I motorsported it. I did watch a little bit of Formula E, realised I'm not a homosexual, and turned it off.
Wow, a ringing endorsement of Formula E there from Rage. Yeah, I watched some highlights of Formula E. I turn off from motorsport. I tend to play a lot more racing games though.
Yeah.
And it's off to try and fill that void. And then Formula One comes back and I just play the F1 game solid for like a week. But yeah, there is nothing really that can fill that hole. And of course we are back here then to talk about the Australian Grand Prix. Thoughts? I mean, in general, it was an interesting race for an opener, but it wasn't spectacular.
A little bit boring.
It was a little bit boring. There were
in places. It was a little bit boring. Should we start from the top and work our way down? So should we start with the Friday and go through to the Saturday?
On Friday, they went round in circles. Some of them quickly, some of them while it was raining, and some of them not at all. Moving on.
Okay.
No.
Well, Saturday. Well, no, actually, we do have something to talk about because Dan Ricciardo got a ridiculous penalty.
Yes, you probably remember that if you're mentioning it. I remember him getting one. I can't remember what it was for.
So the time, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is why the timing, the sheet of whatever it is that runs across the track that records time when they pass. I thought it would be more than just a wire, but apparently there's something in the road that ticks over or whatever.
There is an actual physical timing
barrier,
thing on the line. Yeah,
it ripped up. So the timing line actually ripped up, and for whatever reason they pulled a red flag. Dan Ricciardo was halfway around the track, nowhere near it at the time. No one else was on the track, and because he didn't slow sufficiently, they gave him a penalty. But they said the penalty itself was worth a 5-place grid penalty and points on his license, but because there was no one else on the track and there was actually no personnel on the track at the time, they reduced it
to a 3-place penalty. Yeah,
3-place, and still points on his license. But yeah, I thought that was a little harsh. He could have given him 1, but on the other hand, what else can they give him? What penalties can they give him? They can't give him a grid penalty. I mean, a pit stop and go, or there's kind of nothing else they could do. I would have been happy with 1 place and some points on his license. I think that would have been sufficient. But a red flag is only thrown when there's either a massive problem with the track, there's debris or a crashed car, or there's personnel. So, he's got to stop or slow down, and if he doesn't, then he's in trouble. So he deserves it, but then I think it was a bit harsh.
I think you're right. I mean, it's letter of the law. Each rule has a set range of punishments the stewards can use on it. So I presume grid penalties were sort of the mainstay of that range. And you're right. It's it's practice. It's a red flag. There's no reason for him to break it. It's just one of those nuances. I'm afraid it's not. Oh, it's his own Grand Prix and it's no one on track and it didn't really hurt anybody. It's yes, but then something could happen in the same situation, which is the complete opposite, and they have to be fair across the board. So
rules is rules.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, he all fucked up.
It's like when you see people holding people up in certain sessions, and there's been even grid place penalties for people not moving over and letting people through in practice, and you think, yeah, but it's practice, it doesn't matter, but it's still part of the rules, so they have to stick with it. It was quite a shame though, considering it was his home race, and put him on the back foot for Saturday. In terms of the rest of practice, I mean, Hamilton looked pretty impressive all the way through.
I didn't watch any more apart from I heard what happened to Dan, and that was about it.
Yeah, it was it was slowly confirming what we'd hoped from practice, that the front three cars were very closely matched, and that Haas and McLaren were definitely quick. That's really the main things that we took from practice, and of course that then led us into qualifying itself on Saturday. So shall we work top to bottom or bottom to top? I guess we'll start at the top, shall we? Work our way down. That's what we normally do.
Let me just 1 second. I didn't have the things up. I'm a bad person. Filler time, brought to you by Cream in a Can. When you need cream and you've only got a can opener, we'll be there with cream in a can receptacle. Don't you worry, it's fresh and pasteurized.
Right. Have you got it open yet, for goodness sake?
I don't know where it is. Results.
What, the qualifying results?
Yeah, full race results. Qualifying. Bang,
God.
got them up. Working from bottom to top.
Philistine here.
Sorry, man.
It's all right.
I didn't have my Weetabix today.
Well, that's not really going to help you at 10 to 8 in the evening anyway, but sure. So, yes, Lewis Hamilton, pole position.
I thought we were working from bottom to top, but let's
go top to bottom. Let's just do top to bottom.
Okay, Lewis Hamilton.
Stunning pole. Absolutely breathtaking, considering.
He went round a few times and then went a bit faster.
That's our practice bit. We actually care about this bit.
Sorry, I'm not up to speed.
Well, it's only you and me. If you're not up to speed and only half of us is up to speed, what's the point in doing it?
It was a blister in time.
It was unbelievable where he pulled that out from.
It was 0.663 or 662, wasn't it, in front?
3/4 of a second almost.
Yeah, I know it was 0.66 something. I don't know the decimal point. It was 600 tenths. Sorry, 6/10.
600 something like that. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot in the realm of Formula One.
It was literally huge, and
it spoiled the party really, because up until that point, especially you look at say Q2, I think it was, and you would the front three times of Vettel. Was it Q1 or Q2? Q1, I think it might have been. They were all within like a tenth of each other. A Mercedes, a Ferrari, and a Red Bull, and we really started to believe that the season we were all waiting for, which still might be here to be fair, which we'll talk about in the race, might be here, but Hamilton blew that away in qualifying.
Yeah, he smashed it.
That was a bit more than just Hamilton. And we know he's
a magic button apparently.
Well, this was the thing, wasn't it? In the there was a very heated moment between Hamilton and Vettel in the press conference after qualifying about this magic button, and Vettel questioning Hamilton, well, if you didn't use it then, what were you doing for the rest of the session? And Lewis Hamilton said was just waiting to wipe the smirk off your face or something.
Yeah.
Which was quite inflammatory.
Oh, memes.
I mean, it's quite a normal passing comment in any other walk in life, but in Formula One, that's scandalous. So yeah, moving down from Lewis, because that was a stunning lap, and the magic mode, I guess we'll see as we go on. It's Mercedes have always been rumoured to have these kind of modes, but then so should every other Mercedes team this year, according to the rules.
Yeah.
Whether they found a way around it, we don't know. Then the two Ferraris up next. The big surprise of the weekend, Kimi Räikkönen really on form this weekend.
He was, wasn't he? He did well.
He was quick, and less than 500 between Räikkönen, Vettel and Verstappen, showing at least the rest of the grid is very close. Then the two Red Bulls, quite a big difference between Verstappen and Ricciardo. Whether Ricciardo was really chucking everything into it, considering
he said he had problems switching on the first sector.
Yep.
So, yeah, little bit of a bad showing from Ricciardo, to be fair. He lucked out and got the lap that he got in, and yeah, that was about it. He didn't really have much competition behind him, so I think he was always going to be fifth, wasn't he? Really, he wasn't as fast as the other guys this weekend. So, yeah, I think he got on a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I think he let it get to him. That's the first time I've seen that really from Dan, which is a bit weird. So, yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, at the end of the day, 3 temps is 3 temps. It's not much, but he did seem to be a bit off sorts from that penalty all the way through qualifying.
As he called it was a shit house.
That's only an Australian good. It was quite interesting. The two Red Bulls starting to go with the super soft tyres in Q2. Don't know. I just smacked my mic there.
That was a good strat. Unfortunately, we're moving on a little bit, but it was nullified, wasn't it, in the race? It was a little bit. It was.
I don't think that was going to work anyway, considering.
I reckon if they got a bit of free air, it could have come into play. But
what they were hoping was to do a one-stop. And what most of the grid were hoping to do was to do a one-stop. We're getting really onto the race here, but it was to do a one-stop on the ultras and the super softs. But Red Bull's stints, the fact that the tyres didn't last, showed the rest of the grid they couldn't use the super softs. So everybody went to the softs, and it meant Red Bull never really got the benefit of using the ultra soft.
They got themselves in trouble at the beginning and got stuck behind slower cars because you can't overtake here. There's a reason. But anyway,
no one else used them.
Yeah, no, but we'll get to it later.
There's a very good reason that these teams didn't use them.
We'll get to it later, damn it! This is a podcast. It has order.
It does. 2 Haases then. Fantastic result for them, showing that their testing pace was completely genuine. Best of the rest, 6th and 7th.
I have some Ferrari parts, sir. I do want to do well, sir.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk of that, and I think we'll maybe discuss that much later
Gene Haas
on.
Literally just bent over and parted his cheeks and was like, "Insert, Mr. Ferrari. I shall give you many dollars."
Well, the thing was about that is that last year's Haas, since they started, have been getting parts of Ferrari. It's nothing new. The difference
they got powertrain, gearbox, and suspension setup. Yeah.
Suspension, electronics. The only thing they do is the chassis and the aero, basically. The big difference this year is that last year's Ferrari was a lot better than the 2 years before. So they're getting the benefits of Ferrari being much improved last year, I think. And as the formula goes on and the gap gets smaller and smaller between all the teams, then there'll be less improvement made from Ferrari season to season, and the better Haas will get. I think that's just the facts.
Rosso are literally sitting there spinning in their little graves. Hello, darkness.
Yeah, it was a mixed weekend for them, I think. Which we can get on to. But let's just finish up qualifying and then get through this, and we can talk about the race.
Double bananas.
Yep, 2 bananas. Split. Good result from the Renaults. Valtteri Bottas, massive crash. Massive damage.
That's a lot of damage. So yeah, it was a lot of damage. Broken gearbox. He broke a box.
He fucked it.
He fucked a box.
He literally screwed that car right up.
Yeah, very start, wasn't it? Isn't that?
Yeah, very uncharacteristic mistake from him, and a big red mark against him in a season that he has a lot to prove if he still wants that Mercedes drive. It's not a good start from him. Then the 2 McLarens, much improved, not quite as quick as I think a lot of people would have hoped, but they are saying that it will be their worst race of the season.
Just such a ridiculous statement, because it's everyone's worst race of the season. It's like, what do you think? Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes rock up with no development for the next fucking 20 races. Of course it's going to be the worst race.
No,
without saying.
I think that's taking it a bit literally. I think he meant that they will go up the grid from now forward. They mean their worst race in terms of position. Yeah. I don't think even Fernando Alonso is naive enough to think that no one else is going to develop.
I know. It's just it just made me laugh. Anyway, Sergio.
We got Force India Williams, Force India Toro Rosso, Sauber Williams Toro Rosso. I mean, they can all fit into the same bracket. Disappointing, need to do better.
Yes.
Force India, especially out of that group, we expect to be doing better, but I think they're going to suffer this year from the big. I don't think they've gone backwards in that much in performance or not failed to make as big a jump. It's just that Haas, Renault, and McLaren have made a huge step forward.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference.
Where's the performance gone? It's sad though because every single manufacturer there, all the way down to P13, and that team is not a Mercedes car apart from Mercedes.
Yeah, so maybe engine. Well, this is what we've been seeing with Williams, isn't it? Since the first year of the hybrid era, they're really starting to struggle.
What can be wrong? Like, McLaren dodged a massive bullet by dropping that engine. They really did. They may have got them a little bit further up the grid and earned them a couple of more points in the last couple of races. But people are always saying, oh, why did they go to, why did you go to Honda? Such a bad decision. It wasn't. It was a good decision. It didn't work out, but it was a good decision because it's a literal dead end with Mercedes being up the top there. There's no way to compete.
Correct.
They had to diversify. But
I think you've got to look at the directions Force India and Williams have gone with their cars rather than it saying it's on the engine. Because Mercedes still have the quickest engine, therefore Force India and Williams still will have the quickest customer engine. So it's not. I don't think that's the problem. The problem with Force India and Williams is they need some. Their big problem is with aero, and they've gone for radical solutions for the pair of them this year, and it's not working. All the changes they've made haven't worked. That's their problem. I think they've still got the best engine on the grid. I think maybe Ferrari are getting close.
Back of the grid pack.
It's going to be interesting. Sauber, big improvement over what they were doing in practice. I can't get over your naivety sometimes. You can't. They were almost a second off the pace in Australia last year, off anybody.
Yeah.
And they've beaten Williams and a Toro Rosso, and they were a 10th away from getting through to Q2. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a pretty good performance from the pair of them. And who was quicker out of the two Saubers?
Moving on to the race.
If I can be asked, I'll put a little clip of Rage saying from the preview of Leclerc versus Ericsson.
There's less than a 10th between them.
He'll smash you, mate. No chance. Ericsson's not fit to. I know. That's the complete point. He's got a lot to learn, and I agree that he'll be right up there. Once
let the force run through you, young apprentice.
I will do.
Race? Fancy
yes.
Race?
So moving on to the main event, we do it very differently from anybody else that does a podcast, but that's why you love us. Most people start the race and don't even mention practice and quali most of the time, but we like to do the full picture here on the Formula Fun podcast.
You get all of the fucking news and no butter.
All the news, all the time. right up in your oses. Penetrating deep down the cortex of nervous system. Right, moving on. So the race then. Race start. Very clean, which is unusual for Australia. Yeah.
I was hoping that it was Australia. Someone was going to go, skipping into the dirt track, mate. Wow.
Do a little off-roading.
Do a little bit of off-roading with the bogans, mate.
Just a little bit of off-roading.
Nothing happened.
No, it was pretty calm. Obviously, great start from Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, there are a few lockups here and there. Someone locked up and went into the back of someone. I think it was one of the Toro Rossos. And they had to pit early. I think it was Gasly. But anyway. Yeah, very clean start. Great start from Hamilton. Big mover at the start was Kevin Magnussen. Going down the outside of Max Verstappen. Was it Verstappen or Ricciardo?
What was that? Sorry, the beginning. So
yeah.
That was Magnussen over the front of Danny.
Yeah,
No, Verstappen.
it was Verstappen, yeah, around
It
the
was
outside of him because Ricciardo was starting further back. And the Hasses looked great, weren't they? They were after.
Oh.
Sorry, me just tapping the
Kong!
mic.
Cling clang!
I'm fiddling with a paintbrush. I've no idea why. So yeah, it was a good start from Hamilton. He started racing away. Raikkonen kept on second place off the line, and really looked like a match for Vettel early on. And then I guess the first major incident was Verstappen's spin, which was unusual. There's apparently some damage he sustained early on in the race that caused that.
So yeah,
it looked like he just clipped the curb.
I don't
to
get
me.
that because I didn't see any any damage being, him doing anything to damage the car through the beginning of the race. He's saying he had really bad oversteer. It was a bit odd. He obviously did you hear the radio communications between him and his engineer at the beginning after what happened with the Haas? So his engineer came over and said, "Come on, mate, we can't sit behind this car for much longer."
Yeah, it was something along the lines of that, wasn't it? Yeah, we've got to get past him.
Pretty much a polite way of saying,
Got to
hurry
get a
up.
move on. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he got a move on, absolutely smashed his tyres, span, and then the guy was like, "Come on, no, keep your composure," and all. It's like, well, you just G'd up your mate, like told him to go really fast, absolutely ruined his tyres, and then he overdid it onto turn one. He went a little bit wide, tiniest bit wide, hit the grass, but he was actually gone before he got to the apex of the corner. The back just completely went. I think he just overheated his tyres. I don't think there was damage until he sustained damage by going over the rumble strip sideways, and then he was damaged.
Yeah, it
That's
does sound like an excuse. I think everything you say there is true. I think everybody was caught out by the overruling impression from this Grand Prix of overtaking was just so much harder. Australia's never great for it, and these 2018 cars, well, the 2017 cars proved that there were half as many overtakes as the year before. They're very tough to overtake in, but this was particularly bad in Australia. And I think that might have contributed to that. I need to put this paintbrush down. I think that might have contributed to that radio message because he's following a Renault that they know he's over a second quicker than, and they're so used to Verstappen just breezing past people. They probably just thought he needed a hurry up, but it wasn't that at all. It was just nobody could overtake.
Nope.
And I think that's... Well, we'll address that in a little bit. Let's just go on with a little bit, the sort of tail of the tape, as they call it. So, not much went on. Haas sort of stayed 5th and 6th. Alonso was right up there, the two Renaults. I think we have Sorokin out very early due to apparently a sandwich bag in his brake duct.
He says. Yeah.
So that was unlucky. Ericsson retiring. Gasly retiring, and then Haasgate.
Yes.
It was heartbreaking, I must admit.
It was pretty bad. I reckon Gene Haas passed a big old brown one when that happened.
Yeah, I think the whole team did. And it was horrible to see, so let's just go through it then. I mean, it was 2 pit stop errors. They were seen as human errors. It was cross-threading of wheel nuts on the wheels, but the real big cause of it was not necessarily the cross-threading, which is something that can happen fairly regularly in Formula 1. It was the failure to hold the car. It was the fact that even the second one with Grosjean, they were waving their hands immediately, the car still went.
I know.
And the reason for this is that Haas have almost a completely new pit crew this year. Haas, like a lot of the smaller teams, don't have on-site training. So they don't have facilities to do rolling pit training, and they don't do any drills at the factory.
Really?
Yeah, like a lot of smaller teams, they just don't have the facilities or the personnel or the money to do it. The pit crew for the smaller teams literally will turn up for the race weekend, do the pit crew stuff, and go. So their first training is Thursday, because they were interviewing Gunsteiner afterwards, and they said, "Is this something you can go back to do the training?" He said, "No, they'll be going straight to Bahrain we have no facilities to do it. The first time we can sort it out will be Thursday, and some of the guys won't even be there till the weekend. So I think that's the problem. It was a new crew. Obviously, they weren't drilled enough. They weren't aware of the procedures or forgot the procedures, and the car just wasn't held. And that's what caused the issue, really, because it's pretty easy to reseat the wheel nut and redo it if it's stopped. Obviously, once the car's gone, it's a bit late. So they were robbed. They were so quick this weekend. Look, I thoroughly would have expected those two to maybe even have beaten Verstappen home the way he was struggling. So I think we would have seen those Haases in 5th and 6th. And yeah, a real shame, because I don't know how long this advantage will hold for them at the head of the midfield. So it's a shame.
I think they really kicked themselves for that, because they're one of the teams that development's gonna be really tough. The development race is going to be strict on them because of limited funding. So this is their real time to put in good results, and you just think what goes through their heads. And I know that, like you say, it might not be all down to, it's obviously experience and working together wasn't there, but surely it's just happened to one car. Just take an extra second.
That was the incredible thing. Yeah.
Even I think it's even said that Gunter had even said to them, "Look, it doesn't matter how quickly you do it. Just get them out." It was even discussed before the race. They knew it was a weak point. They knew that they hadn't been trained, and not hadn't been trained. They were all new. They weren't used to working together. A lot of them were all new. But surely you just think, look, you're going to be a couple of seconds slower. It doesn't matter. Just get them out. It's beggars belief. There's some system that didn't work twice, and the only thing, like you say, it's down to is the guy who released them. Why on earth did they release the cars? The guy was quite clearly waving his hands, big X, both times. And
the second time, instantly. Like, if you've just been told you've got to wait. And just make sure it
dropping
goes.
That flag or hitting that green button, because I don't know how they use it, if they still use a flippy sign or if they use the head down button, the red and green. Well, he needs us talking to. He lost the race for both cars. That's a huge amount of points. That could have been 5th, 6th, 4th. That you don't know. That's a massive amount. That's millions and millions of pounds. That pretty much could have paid for the development of those cars at the beginning. All of the money they put into it just to get that 2018 car there could have been paid off by the prize money they would have won. Obviously at the end of the year, but that's how much it would have been worth to them. Millions. Is such a shame. And I think from now on it's backwards for Haas. Not massively, but over time it is definitely. Unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll see. It depends how the relationship works with Ferrari, really. If they just get given the parts at the beginning of the season and that's it, they're not going to get revisions or anything, then yeah, they'll go backwards again.
They can't keep up with the likes of McLaren and
Renault. You would think not, no.
Big pockets. Little Gene Haas ain't got that big pockets.
He doesn't. He may run a massive motor racing company in America, but it's not anything near the likes of McLaren or especially Renault. I would, just before we move on from that to the repercussions that it caused, I will just quickly talk about something I don't know enough about, but is a possibility with that. So a big thing going into the season with the Halos was a lot of teams before used the traffic light system. So they had physical lights at the front of the car or on the sort of pit. What used to be the fuel rigs, but they now just literally run the airlines and had a little light coming off them to say when to go. So every mechanic had to press a button, and then once they all pressed, the green lights went on. But they were talking about one of the biggest challenges of the Halo this year was the fact that the Halo blocked the view of it. So I don't know how teams have actually developed that, the big teams. I'm wondering if Haas didn't, as you say, just went back to the old-fashioned lollipop.
Yeah.
And they just may not have had light system at all, in which case the front
maybe there was a spotter at, say, the side, maybe on the pit wall or next to him with just an earpiece and just saying release, and literally all of his job was to turn the thing. There's that many things going on, he can't check all four wheels. there's someone monitoring it somewhere, either behind the scenes, on a camera, whatever, saying release as soon as he knows all corners are on, and just got the call wrong twice. They just need to revise it.
Yeah,
They will do.
I'm sure they will, and hopefully we won't see it again. But a big disappointment from them.
Yeah.
So the big thing that this caused then, obviously, was first a virtual safety car, then a full safety car. Hamilton and Raikkonen had already pitted. Sebastian Vettel had stayed out for a lot longer, and the result was, unfortunately, that Sebastian Vettel exited the pits ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
Now, a lot of people who are watching that, at least the people who I were watching with, didn't understand what happened.
No, this is what really annoys me. Okay, I don't get angry very often, but this I get angry about.
It is the one flaw in the VC virtual safety car system.
Yes, but we all know about it.
I know.
None of the commentators, they all go, what's going on? This, ever since the VSC has come in, if you pit under it, you save a huge amount of time.
And Vettel's used it. He did it last year.
Fucking last year. Same race.
The same thing happened. He came out in the lead. Like, how dumb can you be? Like, I don't get it. And like my girlfriend who I was watching it and my dad both didn't understand what happened. It was like, how did he come out in front? I was like, well, if Lewis is halfway around the track, then he gets slashed down to 40 mile an hour. Vettel's gone 40 mile an hour, but he's at the pit entry. He goes in, pits within the time. Hamilton's still going around the track, comes out behind him by the time he's pitted. It's a masterclass. The more and more I see this from Ferrari and Vettel, the more and more he looks like the best ever man to race around the car, Mr. Schumacher. Like and more he does these kind of things. I said as soon as that happened, I just clapped. I was like, he's done it again. He's literally done it again. It's masterclass from Vettel.
Yeah, he has this racing brain that Formula 1 drivers have to have, and the greats have always had. And it's the thing that elevates, in my opinion, people like Alonso and Vettel on their day above the likes of Hamilton, where they can overcome the speed differential by reading the race strategy correctly.
They have a bit of a brain.
Yeah, and the thing that was really impressive was the awareness that when you come out of the pits, as soon as you cross the pit entry line and the pit exit line, you no longer have to adhere to virtual safety car speeds. So that's right from the beginning of the pit lane in the second to last corner, right down to the end of the straight. They can go flat out.
Flat out.
So that's where the extra time came from as well. So I completely understand how it happened. I can't understand why Mercedes are continually, even now they're saying, well, we're looking into it. It must have been a glitch in the system. No, it's how it works.
You just got beat. But one of the other things that really, really annoyed me was the fact that they called VSC, and then afterwards called a safety car. Like, what? Just call a safety car. Why call VSC? Modify the race so much that happened, and technically altered the result of the race, like manufactured the result of the race, and then brought out the safety car to kind of, I don't know why. Like, they obviously had problems getting the digger or the crane to the car. They obviously had an issue, but it just looked like so suspect. I saw a meme, and I'll try and find the meme so you'll see the meme now. It was just like virtual safety. It was a picture of Vettel coming out the pits and Hamilton just behind him saying, all of the conspiracy theories are trying to work out how we got done. Like, because literally it's that same feeling. Like, what? Why did they have to do two at the same time? Why didn't they do one or the other?
It's weird that they escalated it. I presume you're right. I presume it's because they realised that too late that they I guess what they've done is they've instead of throwing double yellows, they've thrown the virtual. But while they work out how they're going to get it off the track, and then when they realise it's how they're going to get it off, and then they realise they need a safety car, I don't know. But it was a bit weird that they pulled one off the other.
Pulled one out the same packet, mate. One then the other.
Two sausages out of a bucket.
It was the old double switcheroo.
Two
one
sausages
down,
in
then
hot
pop
dog,
the other
those
one in.
two.
They never know the difference, son. Get the old car out, they won't even know.
Do you know what we're talking about? I don't.
We're the bad guys.
So we're the baddies. I mean, whatever the effects it was sort of praying that would happen with Vettel. That's why he stayed out. It was complete luck on his behalf, because that's what he was waiting for, and it wouldn't necessarily have happened. But he had to take that risk, I think, from where he was, and it paid off. And he came out in the lead. We got underway again. The other big winner that did something very similar was Fernando Alonso. Waiting for the same thing. The two thinkers on the grid held for the same eventuality that they lucked out on.
Yeah. Bottas also got benefit of that, by the way.
Yes, that's true. He also pitted under the safety car. And then we saw the biggest demonstration of the problem with Australia.
Yes.
They couldn't overtake, and Hamilton on Vettel was a small case of it. Hamilton trying incredibly hard, to the point. There were some really interesting radio messages with him. I don't know if you picked them up on BBC.
What, with Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh, what, the whole G'ing up the team? Like, do you want this and all this?
Yeah, do you want this? Yeah. And then, can you let me know what we're doing when we can push? And he said, almost, I can't remember what he said exactly, but it was almost,
so,
basically,
screw it, I'm going for it.
Yeah, screw it, I'm going to go for him. And then he immediately proceeded to go off the track. But he pushed as hard as he could. Hamilton and Vettel was a small demonstration of it, but obviously those cars are still pretty close in speed. The biggest demonstration of the problem with overtaking was Fernando Alonso. Now, he's quick. He's an incredible driver, but he's not that quick in that McLaren. And Verstappen couldn't get past him, and Bottas couldn't get past Hülkenberg. The pair of them were blatantly more than a second quicker than them. And the fact that Fernando Alonso in that period from the safety car to the end of the race lost 27 seconds on the front runners, and Verstappen couldn't pass him in that time, is a huge problem. Whether it's track specific, we'll wait and find out, but it seems to have got even worse, the problem this year. And it ruined the race, I'm afraid. And a similar thing with Ricciardo, all over the back of Kimi right until the end, for what would have been an incredible podium, which we were all willing him on to do, I think. But he couldn't. And it meant that Sebastian Vettel crossed the line to take the opening win for the second year in a row. Hamilton, very disappointed in second, but I'm sure he'll take it for now. And I think probably the most disappointed man and the most robbed by the virtual safety car, Kimi Räikkönen, in third, because he was more than a match for Vettel in the first half of the race. And I think we'll see, because you never know, Kimi, but resurgence this year is, I think, possible now, from what we've seen from him over that weekend. He was quick, and he was all over Hamilton at the start.
Who, Räikkönen?
Yeah. Which I forgot that actually turned free.
It was a shame. It was a shame for Mr. Räikkönen. But he did well to hold off a charging Dan Ricciardo, who's still robbed again.
Yeah.
Of a podium finish.
Absolutely. Definitely race better than Max.
Oh, well, Max just immaturity and a little bit too eager. He's a great driver, but just tone it down. Finish the race, yeah?
Yeah, it will come with time, Max. Best of the rest, Fernando Alonso, stunning result for him. Much needed from McLaren, and great to see, really. Him back up there fighting with people that he needs to be. That McLaren's still a long way off, but
if you think about that, though, that was a gift, that position.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
He should have been 7th, really.
Yeah, you got the two Haases in that gap, of course. Yeah. And who knows, without the two Haases going out, you wouldn't have the virtual safety car. Maybe Verstappen and Bottas might have been somewhere different above him as well, because Alonso was behind them before the safety car, the virtual safety car, and that's where he made the gains as well. So, but he did his job, and the car was quick compared to the midfield, and it was great to see him back where he needs to be, nearly. Hülkenberg, ever Mr. Consistent in 7th. Why the snigger at that?
I don't know. I just always feel really bad for Hülkenberg. He deserves so much more. Hopefully that car improves and they improve. And I want to see more from Hulk. But yeah, it was good finish with that car at least. He wasn't doing any better, really, was he?
No, and it was another story between him and Carlos Sainz, it was kind of the trend all up and down the grid. Apart from the Ferraris, you got Hamilton vastly outperforming his inexperienced teammate in comparison, Bottas. Same with Ricardo and Verstappen. Same with Alonso and Van Dorn. Same with Hulkenberg and Junior. And the same with Perez and Ocon going further down. So it's kind of a race for the experienced hands, it would seem. Bottas, disappointing weekend in general, isn't it? It's got to get a lot better than this if he wants to keep that job.
Pretty much, Dan Ricciardo's already fucking sizing up his seat. He's got his tape measure out. So's Ocon. They're sitting there going,
I still think Danny Rick's going to Ferrari.
Danny Rick's not good. Well, look, I had this conversation with Steph because she was just like, Dan might go to a Ferrari because Lance lived it. I mean, I was trying to do an impression
because of her and Vettel. Don't let her hear that, for fuck's sake.
Going to Ferrari. Oh, he must be going to Ferrari.
And I was like, no. Dan possibly could go to Ferrari. He could go there for maybe a year or so, but there's no future there for him at Ferrari. So that's why I feel he might try something else. Because he's always going to be looking over his shoulder for Charles. We'll see. I think
but
he's already said he's not attached to any colour or car, so he will go in the fastest car he can go in. So he'll go wherever he wants and wherever's fastest.
The thing with him going to Ferrari, I think it's the thing is Bottas' seat is very likely, considering it's more likely, especially if Kimi continues his resurgency, because I think Ferrari will want to give Leclerc a few more seasons, and they'll want to replace Raikkonen with Leclerc. The only thing I will say is Ricciardo, if he did get that drive, I would put money on him almost. He'll give him a run for his money, but he may even beat Vettel consistently like he did at Red Bull. And if he goes there and does that, who's to say Vettel won't be the one to go? Because Vettel won't want to stick around in the team for too long when his teammate's beating him.
I think something will be in Vettel's contract to say certain drivers aren't allowed in his team.
But his is up, isn't it? At the end of this year as well. There was a lot of talk if they didn't seriously challenge Mercedes and maybe win the title this year, that he might go. Yeah.
I know. Because
he's a similar man to Rosberg in the sense that I can just see him walking away earlier than he needs to, just because he's achieved everything he needs to. But we'll see.
Oh no, he's desperate for another championship. He wants one more, and once he's got that one, he won another one. So I can't see. I hope Vettel Hamilton's going to be the slug match of of legend. I hope it's going to develop into a lovely flower of hatred and remorse.
It would be nice, wouldn't it, to have that kind of rivalry, and if we can get the old character of Alonso back in there at some point, and Ricciardo and Verstappen up there, and if Raikkonen is resurgent. This season still promises so much, and there's a lot from that race to be positive about in that sense.
Oh yeah, you should have had the Red Bulls right up nipping at the heels of the top guys. They should have been up there. The Red Bulls were just held back by the McLarens, the Haas's whilst they're out there, and the Renaults. So it's all going to come to play, especially with these hotter races coming now. It's going to be a 3-on-3 tussle, definitely. I think Australia was a wild card. It's anyone's race. Last year it showed you it's anyone's race. This year, for where they're going next, at least, hot race, hot temperatures, Ferrari's going to perform. I think as well that the Red Bull will be able to switch his tyres on very well. So we'll have a rumble in under the lights of Bahrain. I reckon it's going to be a good one.
I think it'll be a cracker. Yeah. My big problem still is whether this overtaking hangover will continue. Because if it does, the big problem there is that Mercedes have such a big advantage in qualifying. I think they will continue to, apart from on certain tracks. That Hamilton just needs to qualify first, get away first.
It's been like that for years, though, Jamie. Like, look what happened in the Red Bull era. It was like that for them. All
2 years. 2 years it wasn't.
Well,
they could still overtake there though. That was purely on pace. The problem I have with this is that all the cars are very closely matched on race pace. They're incredibly close, but if they can't get past the Mercedes, then it's going to be a problem. because that's what happened a lot with Vettel last year. He maybe had the better race pace, but couldn't win the races because he couldn't get past. But
I'm
we'll
assuming
see.
people know why they can't get past. If you want to explain.
Yeah, it's basically when you're following a car, you're following their wake, which is this imaginary sort of dirty air that's thrown off the car, and through the corners it disrupts the airflow going onto the car, and therefore making it a lot more unstable and generally understeering, making it very hard to follow. And with these new regulations that came in last year, you've got wider cars, you've got more aero, fatter tyres, and it's throwing off a lot more dirty air. And with the extra grip they've got this year, the more grip you put on a car, the more it's disrupted, which sounds strange, but it does. Very low grip, low formula cars don't suffer from it because there's not this heavily channeled flow of air coming off the back of it. A Formula 1 car is so perfectly channeling air off the back of the car that it's hitting the car behind at such a force in all the wrong places, because it's being channeled off the back in different places to where it wants to hit the car when it's clean air that's nice and free. It ruins the following ability, and that destroys tyres and stops the ability to overtake.
Pretty much, in a nutshell.
Well, I mean that was halfway between a nutshell and the full acorn tree.
Well, all of these cars are all developed in a wind tunnel, with nice fresh air being rushed over all of their big parts.
Exactly.
And as soon as that lovely fresh air that's a bit like treacle at that speed disappears, and it's all ruffled and spinning in wild directions, and vortexes coming off the back of these other cars, it doesn't hit over those surfaces as cleanly as it did before. So those surfaces that have been so intricately designed when the nice clean air is rushing over them is now not as 100% efficient. So you can't turn in, you can't brake as efficiently, you don't have the literally the secret art of downforce like you did before.
It's like, imagine a goalkeeper in goal and you're doing
and now he's got giant concrete shoes.
No, you're doing penalty practice and you're kicking one football very hard at him, and that's what he's used to. And then all of a sudden, you put 10 golfers in front of him and they hit 10 golf balls, and then you expect him to save them all. He can't, because he's not designed to go for that random airflow or random golf balls. That's a very strange. I'm turning into Ted Kravitz, I feel.
You are. Stop it.
Yeah, I will. Moving on to the rest of the grid then. Stoffel van Dorn and Carlos Sainz running out the points. Some good, solid points from McLaren all round, and showing that's not just Fernando Alonso doing the business in that car. That McLaren is definitely quicker and up there this year. Two Force India's probably the loneliest men on the grid back there. Perez almost got some points. He was on the back of Carlos Sainz, who incidentally had a very bad race. Actually went off under pressure from Alonso early on. But the Two Force Indias just couldn't get close enough. They don't have the speed in that car, unfortunately. Leclerc, very impressive on debut. He did finish, and finished nicely ahead of Stroll. But still need more race pace in that Sauber. And after all the promise of testing, Toro Rosso were nowhere really. They showed okay pace, but Hartley was lapped from, I think, some issues that started very early on. I can't quite remember what it was with that car. And of course, Gasly retiring, so pretty bad race for them. So, yeah, I think the virtual safety car we've addressed. I think most of the inter-team battles we've addressed there. Was there anything else from the race itself, I guess, that can give us a clue to the season going forward?
I can't think of any more.
No, Melbourne's always been one of those strange ones that it's the beginning of the year, so the teams are still getting used to their cars, and the track, because of the nature of it, it doesn't show the natural strengths of the cars that will be useful for the rest of the season. Don't show at Australia because of the way the track's laid out, and because it's roads the rest of the year. It's not an optimal track surface. The corners are unlike any other track really in the terms of they're not all medium speed or low speed. It's such a mix of everything. You don't really get a read of what the cars are going to be like for the rest of the year. So it was an interesting race. Unfortunately for them, Haas sort of made it interesting because of the virtual safety car. Other than that, it was going to be a pretty drab race. But promise for the season ahead. Definitely those front six cars look good. It looks like McLaren and Renault on their day could maybe get involved with the lower end of that top 6. And the midfield is definitely going to be close. With I'm really intrigued to see McLaren versus Renault this year as well, I think. And if you get Haas in that mix.
I think that's going to be the ones to watch, isn't it?
Alonso v Hulkenberg v Sainz, Van Dorn maybe getting in there. And Grosjean and Magnussen. Grosjean's a great driver on his day, and Magnussen will get his elbows out at any opportunity. So hopefully some more suckable balls will be coming in with Hulkenberg
We
and
hope to
Magnussen.
see here some more ball sucking throughout the season.
There's one thing we like on Formula Fun podcast.
It's a good old ball sucking.
It's Danish ball sucking. New Olympic sport from the Nordic
Good
arena.
old Nordic ball suck.
God, Christ, moving on.
Moving on.
I guess we probably do we have a COD?
What's a COD?
Our COD? Rage's COD?
I don't know what that means.
It's amazing how many times I have to try and prompt you for this section, but I can't.
Oh,
I'm trying to do it without saying it.
that
Fucking secret news, you bastard!
And
that.
it wasn't that one, but we can do that one.
I don't know.
You have to spell this out for me. I've
I
slept.
did! COD! It's an acronym. C.
Coconuts on dry
Give me a
land.
C!
Give me a cars,
No!
crickets.
Give me. What's that got to do with Formula 1? What's the big C that everyone watches for?
Crashes. Crash of the day. Crash of
He's
the week.
got it! My
Yay!
Joe, he's got it.
Crash of the week.
Oh,
Well,
fuck.
there's only one real crash, wasn't there? So
I don't
yeah.
care now.
Crash of the week, sponsored by Cream and a Curd.
I guess
It
should
was-
be
was
COW,
Bottas.
Crash of the Weekend.
Yeah, it was
It was
Bottas,
spectacular, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a big accident.
That was a big crash.
It was.
A bad mess.
My God, Gromit, that's a big one.
That's a bad mess.
And yeah, inside news, you got any?
No.
No, okay, that's that section done then. I'm glad we did that.
No secret news today. Sorry about that.
Okay. Right, I guess we'll move on to the news coming out of Australia. All the talk has been about overtaking, which we've talked about. Various comments, Ross Brawn coming out and saying that was the glaring thing that race showed and it needs to change. A few talks similar to Abu Dhabi last year of Australia changing the layout for next year to try and change it. I think we need to wait and see if this is going to be a constant theme or if it gets better in the races to come. Then it's definitely an issue Australia do need to look at. Toto Wolff said Valtteri Bottas' struggle to make progress in the Australian Grand Prix reflects a new world for Formula 1, with his struggle to get through. It was a problem, wasn't it? It was a glaring problem.
Yes.
As much as I like to see, we'll go back to it again, but as much as I love to see Alonso defending from Verstappen, Verstappen should have been away and gone. And he definitely could have got in that fight with Ricciardo and Raikkonen and made that more interesting. So it's suffering because of it, even if it does put some of these underdogs in a position that if they get the strategy right or get out ahead of a safety car, they can hold people off, which could be interesting to see, but it's a problem. News story from Toro Rosso. Apparently their Honda engine did not flag up any concerns over raceability or overtaking, and it was very flexible for racecraft, he found it. He did the drive with a different engine at the end of last year, and he thinks the new engine is much more flexible with better racecraft. So, positives out of Honda.
Yeah, that's a bit of gumph that I'm not going to believe.
Yeah, they seem more reliable, but the power's not there still, isn't it? I haven't seen any speed traps, but I think that's probably the case. Right, we've got those calls. Oh, fucking Autosport, I hate you. You've reached your limit of 15 stories for this month. Click here to start your free trial.
What?
Fuck
What's
off.
that?
Oh, Autosport, like motorsport.com now, have limited stories. So if you're reading a news story, you can only read 15, and then you have to start a free trial, and it blanks out like everything but the first 2 paragraphs of the story. Next one, rivals should be wary of attacking Haas. This is all about the people attacking Haas about being so similar to the Ferrari. So I guess we'll get onto that subject before we get into the news. So it does seem that we noticed it straight away from the launch photos, didn't we? When someone had done a side by side of the Haas and the Ferrari, and it's just utterly identical in every way. And it's propelled them above a lot of people that would have put a lot of money into developing cars, and you do wonder how much they've had to spend with Ferrari to get that kind of boost, because I wouldn't imagine it's as much as developing it yourself. So unfortunately I can't read the rest of this article. This was one of the ones I wanted to concentrate on, but Autosport won't let me, and I'm definitely not starting a free trial.
I'm definitely not starting any free trials of that bastard.
Let's see, some more on Hamilton. The right data could have avoided defeat. Understand how the VSC works. A lot of drivers already admitting they were driving from halfway onwards in that Australian Grand Prix thinking about the engine rules, which is such a shame. Obviously,
what was that, sorry?
A lot of drivers that said in interviews afterwards and stuff, especially Hamilton, said that they were, from the second half of the race onwards, they were already thinking about the engine rules and looking after it, because of course this year we've only got 3 engines per team.
Yeah, I don't get that whatsoever. It's so random. Yeah, whatever floats your boats.
It's a shame.
It's a fucking shit show. Just give them engines. Just let them race. Why? Like, it already costs millions of pounds. Just let it cost a few more million. Why? Like, what? How is it gonna hurt by letting them put in like 2 more engines? Just means you get better racing. Like, do they not understand by limiting the racing, they're just manufacturing it into being something that they want? Like, you wait until we get further on down the lines. Championships will be won and lost due to the reliability of an engine. And I know that's a stupid statement because that is just common knowledge in Formula 1. But
I mean, it's been happened many times before.
It may have happened before, guys, but it's definitely happening now. You know what I mean, though? You understand my frustration with that.
Oh, I completely agree with it.
3 engines over the space of... They've got to last on average 7 races per engine. How? How can they run their engine on 100%? It has to last for 7. It makes no sense. These cars, obviously, they've got more performance, but they can't use them. Let them race. All of that millions of pounds of development, and they can't use them to their full potential because fucking whatever his name of the FIA, the Frenchman, decided that he wanted to limit them to 3 engines.
That is Frenchmen make them use 3 engines.
Fucking Jean
They
Todt.
will live it.
They will love it. You know what will really piss those English people off, especially the Italians. Limit them to 1 engine. For fucking 7 races.
These fucking people eat all these fried food for breakfast when you can get off with just a little croissant. And do the same with engines.
Shall we go for croissants while we're laughing on these Italians and Germans?
Make your engines out of
Oh,
croissants.
shit. We've also fucked over the Renaults. They are also French. Don't worry. They're not going to be very good anyway.
What did we do?
The bad guys.
You can understand. I think that whole little sentence there, that whole little section, just underlines how pissed off we are with some of the rules of the FIA.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the other thing that I must point out, I feel, after that discussion, is Jean Todt has nothing to do with the engines or what rules are decided, but we'll give him the buck of the.
To be fair, if anyone, it's fucking Ross Brawn, and he's the good guy.
Well, he's not had a chance, has he? All these were set out before, and he's not agreed with any of it. The free engine rules, Brawn agreed it had to be changed. Everybody else agreed it had to be changed. Ferrari, nah, it's fine.
Nah, got my veto, mate.
Veto.
Got my veto.
Veto.
Get your veto in, sunshine.
It's...
Get your veto.
I think, to go back onto a serious note for a second.
Okay, sorry.
Don't apologise. I mean, it's the only thing, those kind of conversations are the only thing that justify the name Formula Fun Podcast, because the rest of it's far too serious. The other thing serious about that is that, as the teams have told the FIA many, many times, the more you reduce the engines, all you do is make the engines more and more expensive, because they have to spend more and more money on making them more and more reliable. It doesn't make it. It makes it worse.
It does.
I think me and a friend, one of my new colleagues, were talking a few days ago. Must have been Monday after the race. That it wasn't all that long ago. Teams, of the 90s were putting in quali engines that they had to make sure the drivers got in after 3 laps, otherwise it would have exploded, because they were such specialised quali engines, and they never went bust. They never couldn't afford it.
Engines, though, to be fair, they're not gone out for a couple of quid. They used to
those engines were for a couple of quid.
1,000
brake horsepower, twin turbocharged monsters.
I know, but they'd have like their race engine that was just mapped to, like, I don't know if this is true, but like 5 bar of boost, and then they would have their quali engine, which was on like 20 bar of boost, that could do 4 laps at full boost, and that was it.
What's wrong with that?
4 laps, and that's all you've got. 4 laps, just go fucking mad.
Yeah, mate. Love it.
It was absolutely awesome, to be fair.
I'd love to see that in Formula 1 now.
But they, to be fair, they haven't done that since the old cheap days of the V8 era.
No, it's been a while. It's just we'll always make these comparisons between the past and now. It's that you can't make them anymore. But it's a shame. But there's nothing we can do about it. It's not going to change. Obviously, we've got the new rules being announced very soon for 2021. I think we should even know, either just after Bahrain or before Bahrain, what they've outlined for 2021. So let's hope that Brawn has got his racer's hat on and can finally make some good changes for the sport, because that's where it needs to change.
Who's that? For
Ross Brawn. Yeah. There'll be his first proper set of regulations under his command for 2021.
I bloody hope that it's not bad news.
Well, he's
done with the bad news.
As far as I'm aware, he's walked in from day one. He said the teams are not going to have a single say with this. We'll run it past them, but what I decide finally will happen, and that's what Formula 1's been missing. So let's hope they're the right regulations. Let's hope he can just force them through, and that they're a good step for the sport. But we'll have to wait and see. Right, I think there's not really much more news. There's a little bit of talk about from Christian Horner that quali mode should be banned.
Fuck off. just
There's Rage's opinion on that. Expert opinion.
It's so ridiculous. Quali mode should be banned. Sorry guys, you're in front of us. You should be banned.
Yeah, all those years that we were getting all the poles, yeah. You never tried to stop us, did you? And we just told you to go fuck yourselves. Right, I guess we'll move a short return to the host topics, which we'll do this week. So we'll start with mine, which is normally a little bit more of a serious one, and then we go on to Rage's super wacky, crazy topics that normally involve videos that I have to find. But I don't think they do this week, thankfully. So my topic's a little short one, something I wanted to mention last week, but I will mention it now and we can just have a little chat about it. And that's that this year, I had to go back and research this, but I was proved correct, is the first ever Formula 1 season, official Formula 1 season, that's since the official championship started in 1950, that there is there is only a single British driver on the grid. Every year there has been more than that, and of course this year, one I didn't check was Brazilians, but there's no Brazilians on the grid this year, and that's got to be the first time in an awful long time, if not ever, as well. So, from a British perspective, is it something that makes Formula One less appealing to watch, the fact we've got less British drivers? I know you're a massive Lewis Hamilton fan, and do you think it's a real danger for the future of British Formula One? Considering we top every sort of combined league table of the stats in Formula One's history.
So I think it's a shame that we don't have anyone right now. But yeah, I think it's an unfortunate stat, and obviously we've come to an era now where the greats of recent, have kind of stopped racing. We've lost a lot of good racers. Not just English, but we've lost Button, haven't we? That's the main thing. And the couple of guys who were brought in to replace Button, or just fill the stocks before some of the other younger guys come through, turned out to be no hack. Or it just shows you how now, more so than ever, brutal F1 is money wise. The more and more we, the UK is, in the driver market at least, is being phased out due to money. Is being ever more apparent at the moment. The only way a British driver could really show and get constant sponsorship and constant a seat is through talent alone. And whether we've got that talent yet, it's hard to see. There's only one driver who deserves that seat at the moment, who on right and merit, and that's Lewis. So yeah, I guess it's a bit dodgy, but we've got a couple of young guns coming through in the next couple of years, like the Lando Norrises and that other Mercedes guy that I can never remember his name, but you will now.
Yeah, there's plenty. There's George Russell, the
one.
Mercedes guy. You got Lando Norris. You got Jack Aitken, Justin Rowland. I want to say Jordan King is still in Formula 2. There's a lot of big talent there, but I think you made the most crucial point, and the one that I had in mind when we are talking about this topic, and that's that it's the names aren't getting in because they're not getting the paid backing that a lot of other drivers are. And I don't know whether that's a problem with our system. I don't think it's wrong in doing what we do, which is saying that your talent must be the most important. You have a lot of these other young drivers that don't have a lot of competition in their countries, so the country as a whole, puts a major title sponsor, or even in some cases government backing, and that's the reason they get into F1.
Yeah. Look at the Russians and the Mexicans.
The Russians, the Mexicans, of course you had He Who Shall Not Be Named, which I actually forgot about in the news section. And yeah, plenty of that. I think it's worrying. I just hope we'll know, because these, especially Aitken, Russell, and Lando Norris, will really tell, because if they do as well as they should this year in Formula 2 and say come in the top 2 or 3 in the championship and don't find a seat in the next couple of years, then we'll know that it's a major problem going forward. I just hope we don't get to the point where we have zero. As long as someone comes along, or a new influx talent comes along, once Lewis decides to give it up, then it's okay. But it's not. It is a statistic, but it's a horrible statistic, because it's not like it's the first time in 10 or 15 years. It's the first time in F1's history, and that really does reflect the change in the shift towards paid drivers. And for the country that is the home
it's a mix
of Formula
of paid
1.
drivers, and it's a mix of us as Brits not being able to compete with some of the other world powers.
Yeah,
because there's those big countries like He Shall Not Be Named, the Torpedo.
that's not who I was talking about.
Oh, no. I'm saying that's another person.
Oh, right,
He Shall
yeah.
Not Be Named. The Torpedo.
In your opinion,
who was the last
Ericsson.
one? Gutierrez. My opinion, Ericsson. They all had massive financial backing. Who's the other one? Lance Stroll. His dad's a billionaire. He's got constant backing.
Yeah.
Like, which young guys in the UK? Yeah, there's some wealthy young. You have to be wealthy to be in in racing
In general,
beyond the age of fucking 10. Like you have to, it costs on average like £250,000 a year to keep someone in.
I think
in carts.
you always have to be a little bit careful with the term pay driver, because one of the drivers that people considered one of the best ever, Ayrton Senna, was a pay driver. He was only in Formula One because he paid for his seat.
Yeah.
Which wasn't all that common in those days.
Though back then, it's different back then because he had to. Yes, he was a pay driver, but as soon as he paid for that Tyrrell seat and got in, then he was noticed, and then from there on, he wasn't a pay driver.
I agree, but
none of those pay drivers of recent have proved their worth. Which one of them has proved their worth? One of them lucked into a third position, but none of those have proved their worth. Once, on one occasion, one weekend, one of them was fast. The rest of the time, he was fucking shit. and he shall not be named on this podcast.
Yeah. I do have a news story about him, but...
No, go on then.
So, you remember we pointed out his little Twitter photo saying, get ready. Have you seen why?
Is he opening a bumper cart track?
Crash school.
A what?
A crash school.
He's opening a skid pan.
A stunt trainer's school.
Billy Munger are going in halves.
Oh.
Come on!
He's back racing this weekend.
He is.
Formula 3. British Formula 3. So that'd be interesting. No, he's... Oh, God help us. He's going to be in the Endurance Series this year.
Oh my God!
In an LMP2 car.
No.
And I think it was Fox tweeted me something very poignant when it was announced. Do you think we will see Maldonado ruining Alonso's race again? I hope so.
Is he doing the full season?
Yep.
Who's he racing for?
No idea. I can't remember.
No fucking clue.
They're a fairly new team, I think. LMP2 car. God, even when you just put in Maldonado, it doesn't come up with any recent news stories. It just comes up, why we all miss Crash Store. It turned around F1 race, one win wonders. No. LMP2. He will be driving for the Dragon Speed team.
Oh, now they have a rich history.
Oh, do they?
No.
Oh.
Are they Chinese? I have heard of Dragon Speed. I'm not joking. They were in Le Mans last year.
Okay, I've heard of Jackie Chan racing.
Yes,
DC Jackie
they did
Chan.
Really well.
They almost won it last year. It was almost the most amazing thing.
Jackie Chan!
He almost won it. Anyway, enough about Jackie Chan.
He
racing.
will be, small tidbit, mean nothing to you, but will to some of the viewers. He will be driving with Roberto Gonzalez, who I had in my endurance series in Motorsport Manager. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, that'd be interesting to see. It's gonna be an interesting season of endurance, but that's another thing we'll touch on maybe at some point in the future. It's not really relevant to this podcast. So yeah, he will be back, and I just finishing off with that British thing. It does worry me, but hopefully they will come through. I think I agree with you. I think the only point I will make is people like Palmer and De Resta. I think Palmer won the Formula 2 championship. He had the talent. There are a lot of factors, external factors in Formula 1 that caused what did, and that's the culture around it that maybe is causing the problem with our British drivers. And De Resta is another one that really, in days gone by, he is a cool tard or a button that would have stayed in Formula 1 in days gone by. He had the talent. Absolutely did.
That whole De Resta story really pisses me off.
Yeah, and I think that's the other problem with it.
I was a big fan.
Same. I think that's the other problem with it. Is that they haven't stayed in F1 like British drivers used to. The reason we always had this massive history of British drivers on the grid, more than two, is because they get onto the grid and they stay there. You know, not always in the best teams, but they're always good enough to stick around.
We think about it, it's easy because they're right next to the the training centre. They're right next to where the car's being built, or they got to live close to Woking. The UK days of old through all the way through from, 60s, I guess, up until recently, I guess maybe 80s, 90s, before like the main kind of jet age came in, a lot of the racing and everything stemmed out of the UK. There are obviously other racing series and whatnot, but all of the foreign racers want to come to the UK to pursue their career and get into F1. The home of F1 is the UK. But nowadays it might be shifting to different places where the UK isn't such a massive hub, because you can easily, go kart racing in France or in America. I mean, there's not boundaries like there used to be. You had to go to the UK, otherwise you weren't getting in Formula One. Maybe that's not the case anymore. I don't know what the deal is when it comes to grassroots racing.
They all have to come to Europe eventually, for the major series, but definitely the grassroots and the lower category Formula cars and the go-karts, especially the championships in different countries, have developed massively, especially in places like Asia and America. The local series have really thrived and allow that sort of Asia Pacific region to really get some good talent in there from the beginning. Brazil as well is another one that has a great racing scene on their own there, but again isn't producing what it needs to. But we'll see. I think Brazil is not a massive concern for me. As I've mentioned a few times before, my biggest concern with Brazil is losing the race. I don't think we would ever be a danger of that. Although
I don't think Brazil would ever leave. Not in a hurry. They'll front the money. They'll find it. It's very poor, but it has its very rich. So I don't think it would ever lose the race. Not in a while.
No, we'll see. I hope not as well. I hope the history in there is more than enough to keep it in Formula One now that it's under ownership of people that are trying to reconnect with that side of F1, that historical aspect, as opposed to Bernie that was just money.
Money, money, money. Check my titties for money. It's a rich man's. What was that?
I don't know. Don't know what you were saying there. I did hear one word very clearly. But, moving on from that. Right, your topic for the week then.
My topic for the week. I think for this week, I haven't got enough groundwork for it. I don't want to butcher it. I want us to get some proper good stuff for it.
You don't want to shoot your load too early on this one.
Well, no.
No. Okay.
We spoke about doing different liveries and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not until like when me and Jamie earlier we came on to start the podcast, we realised we had none. So I think for next not next week, the week after, when Bahrain's on, that'll be my topic. So we'll get some more things, because I've got none, man. I've got none. Formula
One's a tough one. I've got a lot of race car liveries. I haven't got many F1 liveries. I have to look over the image libraries of the really sort of historic privateer teams, because that's where I think you'll find some of the really bizarre stuff. So I'll have to look into it. I agree. And if anyone finds any Formula One or race car liveries in general, you can always tweet them to us or leave them in a comment. Actually, don't leave them in a comment because it'll be flagged as spam, because you'll put a link in it. So Twitter, tweet me or Rage, and at TwinBarrelJ and at Rage_F1. And we can include them when we do that topic next time then. So just a quick 5 minutes, looking forward to Bahrain. You mentioned earlier that you think it'll be a bit of a barnstormer. I think you're right. We've seen some great races there over the years.
Some of the best races to come out of the modern era have been at Bahrain.
Agreed, completely.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to Bahrain. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think so. If we see those front six firing and getting away cleanly without any penalties, without any bad qualifyings, and you see 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls getting away at the front of the field, it's going to be fascinating.
It is, definitely.
So I look forward to that. Under the lights in Bahrain. Can't wait. Right, I think we shall wrap that up here for today then. So that will be episode number 7, the Australia review of the Formula Fun podcast. So yeah, it's, as you guys will know, content's a bit lacking at the moment. I didn't get that fancy F1 thing up, which I wanted to, but if you want to watch me and Rage Racing, hopefully we will be back on Thursday for the next round of Project Cars.
No idea where it is.
It is in Austria, GT3s.
Yay.
Yeah, so we should be pretty good round there.
You should be pretty good around there.
You'll be better than the last two places you haven't even fucking known.
Yeah. Much better, hopefully.
Yeah, so that should be good. And people keep asking about our co-op. I don't think we'll be doing it again because of you.
Because of me.
Well, you don't.
We don't.
It's fine.
We've got too much on our plate at the moment, though. To be fair, we're
Yeah.
doing the rally, which isn't televised, because Jamie's not very good at it.
I get really fucking ragey in those. I get so fucking mad.
So do
that
I.
it would
man.
make such bad viewing, and whenever we record at the same time, we do so much worse. So I just don't think it would be very entertaining. The two I did
think
put
it
out
would be
didn't get
gold.
massively good views.
Sorry.
The two I put out didn't get massively good views. So.
Okay. Well, we're doing the rally anyway, and we're doing the. Just a lot to squeeze in. Once we've done our whatsamajiggy, our leagues, I might think of, because obviously it'd be the race up to the new game coming out, so we want to get some laps in before then. So you never know, we could still go on and finish it. We still got the thing up there, haven't we? So why not? We could still finish it, guys. We could
Yeah,
still
the only
do it.
issue I've got is I don't think I have the race that never went up.
Oh yeah, shit! It's on your computer, your old computer.
No, it's not that. I transferred it over. I had to clear the one of the drives the other day for space.
I should still have it though.
You might do. You copied it to me, whether you kept it.
I should still have it. Yeah.
I mean, this is a conversation now that we should be having on our own time. But it's we definitely want to do something else together. For the moment, I think once I get back into the editing swing, please go and watch the Destiny series because I think it's one of the funniest things we've ever done. With me,
Oh my God, it
Rage
really
and Forge. There's many more episodes of that to come, and I think that
Has
was
part of the ship, part of the crew come out later?
yes, it has, and it
just
was
look
marvelous.
for that. Just look for that episode.
It is literally titled that. So
If you're gonna watch any video on any of the even if you don't like Destiny,
That's
just
the
go
thing.
And watch part of the ship, part of the crew.
That's the thing I can't stress enough on that series. It doesn't matter if you don't want to watch the game. It's just me, Rage and Forge. I had to do so little editing because for hours on end we just had the most fun, and the banter's just brilliant.
Is that on your gaming page?
It is, yeah.
I'm trying to find part of the ship, part of the crew. Where is it?
Again,
No, because is it called Reference Boys?
no,
Oh.
it's the episode 4.
Destiny with Forge and Rage.
Yeah. Again, on your own time. So we're still rolling here.
Sorry.
So I think that might be a place for us to have. I will keep pushing stuff out on there, and it's really a labour of love, that channel. So if you guys, I know this is not really relevant to the podcast, but when else do I really get to have these conversations? I do want to keep making stuff over there, and that might be the next thing that me and Ray do together, something on there. We've got a few ideas for something like that, because that's more casual. The thing with the racing stuff as well, if we only get like an hour or two where we're both in the mood for recording a racing game or doing a co-op thing in Formula 1, quickly wipes out the enthusiasm out of you.
Yeah.
Just because of the time and the effort involved. If we're playing just like a quick hour of sort of an online multiplayer game or something for the gaming channel, then we can probably fit some stuff like that in. So if you're not already, go and subscribe over there, and updates should be pretty more regular over there, as they will be on here. But we must end this Formula 1 podcast because it's a Formula 1 podcast at the end of the day, and this has got fuck all to do with it. So we shall join you next time out for Bahrain, where we hope the Formula 1 season will get off to really get going in the fights that we all wish to see. The fight for five. Has that been all over the BBC, by the way? It's all over Sky.
Oh yeah, because they're both going for the
Fight
fifth
for five.
championship.
Fight for five!
Shut up!
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, it has been a little bit. Yeah.
Sky, it's constant. Like all
Is
the
it?
all the little videos they make and all the things they show before the race. 5 for 5. 5 for 5. Oh, quickly, did you see the new Formula 1 theme or hear it throughout the weekend?
Yes, I saw on the YouTubes.
I heard it. They did
Hideous.
it like in the. I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, nothing is ever going to beat fucking Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac is Formula 1. and will be for me forever.
Yeah, but that's British. Dude, that's not what it's replaced. That's replaced the old sort of zoomy sound that they had with the little flash logo. That's all it's replaced. It's not replacing the beginning titles of each nation-specific thing. It's just a theme that they have. I don't know. They were playing it in, when the drivers are getting out of their cars and.
Oh, are they? I
different
didn't
bits.
know. Sorry, I yawned. I didn't. No idea.
That's all right. Yeah, they were playing it
It
in.
wasn't live. I watched like a peasant, so I have no idea.
Okay, well, it was quite cool because as they were coming out, where they parking their cars after the race and getting out, the commentators were, talking about, here comes Hamilton winning, or Vettel winning with the music over it, with the theme over it. It's quite cool. I think it's a nice touch. I'm happy with that change anyway.
Quite cool if you're homosexual.
Fuck off. Get out of it. We're done. We shall see you guys again very soon. Take it easy.
I like grapes.
I like to snort pips of grapes.
Oh, pip snorting.
And then regurgitate them out my mouth and shove them up the arse.
Lovely.